Rightio, quick workflow video on how I handle my filing and how I actually store my files as well. So I basically have everything that is active in one folder, and that folder actually lives on Google Drive. Google Drive was one of the cheapest, best ways I could store the amount of data that I need to store. Google Drive also has really nice built-in support for being able to offload the file in the Finder. So you can right-click on it, go to Drive File Stream, and go Available Offline, which is local on the machine or online only. If you click online only, it will upload those files to the cloud, and you still have the directory structure there, but it has to download the file to grab it. So anything that I haven't used recently, I try and stick in my archives folder. And then in my archives folder, most of these, there's a couple where I must have done something recently. So this job now can go online only. And so once I do that, it just hands off the file to the cloud. So the reason I find that really useful is that on my iMac, which is what we're working on here, this has got quite a bit of hard drive space, whereas my MacBook Pro only has a 512 gig SSD in it. And so this keeps my working files down a little bit. This also provides another point of backup. So because it's via the cloud, everything I'm working on is automatically backed up. So that's helpful. The next thing is the individual file structure. So generally what I do is I just have either a 2 or 3 letter, let's zoom in a bit. Whoops, Zoom tool kills me every time. I have a 2 or 3 letter code for each client and then a job number. So the reason I have not just a job number and a client number is then when I am handling this job, I will use that number, this number here, quite a bit in my communication. So when I reply to emails to that client or I'm sending a draft, I actually select the file, copy it. So I've copied the file name. And then if I go into my mail software, I'd actually put this in the subject line of that email. Even if the client, because often clients will send you multiple emails on the same topic and you're looking for the thing. If you've ever replied to a client email and it's just and it's blank, you know that when you go and look for that thing later, you're not going to be able to find it. So what I do is when I reply to an email chain or a client sends me an email that's outside of the chain, I actually copy and paste this in so that later on when I'm looking for the damn thing, I can find it. So this is especially relevant for clients who send you multiple emails outside the chain and also send you emails with blank subjects. But as a general rule, I try and do that. Rightio, so client number, then job number, and then a descriptive of the job itself. I generally try and put in fact, I'll just fix this up. I generally try and put in the month and the year as well. And so if I'm coming back to this folder, all the new stuff's down the bottom, all the old stuff's up the top. And that's the way with all my stuff. So that's helpful. And it also means that if I'm kind of looking for something, if I know it was in 2017, I go, oh, yep, somewhere in 2017, 2018, 2019, easy. So within the folder itself, I try and use, once again, my zoom tool's killing me. I've got to find a better screen zoom tool. Oh, it's killing me. It's just bad. All right, so for my file structure, it's pretty much always this. So the one working file in the root of the job folder, so that is the current working file. Old versions are kept in a work in progress folder. I'll show you the contents of that one in a second. Any job links are kept in the links folder. I used to have a high-res PDF and a low-res PDF folder, but sometimes I might be sending a high-res PDF to the client. Sometimes I might be sending a low-res PDF to the supplier. And so having HR PDF and low-res PDF folders wasn't actually very helpful. So I've gone with 2 client and 2 supplier as my main folders. So generally the 2 client folder will have a low-res PDF, but from time to time they'll have a high-res. And then 2 supplier as well. So sometimes I might send the supplier if it's a bit of signage, I might send them an EPS, outlined EPS, as well as an outlined PDF. And then finally the work in progress folder. So if I zoom out and have a look at the contents of those, so in the work in progress folder, you can see all the earlier versions of this job. In the to supplier folder, this job hasn't gone to the printer yet, so there's nothing in the to supplier folder. The to client folder, you'll notice, sorry about the screen zoom again, you'll notice that I've kept my old versions, and you'll notice that these versions are jumping up as well. So my version control is whenever I save the file. What goes to the client, even though this is the second revision here, it says V4. That's the V4 version of my file. It's not that hard to keep track of how many versions or rounds you've done with the client, but the main thing that's really important for is if I'm looking for an older version, because I've saved versions 2 and 3, if I stuff something up or the file corrupts or something happens with version 4 or version 6, I've generally got a version in between. So I can see here that there's version 10, which is the most recent version that went to that client. If I have a look at the work in progress folder, you can see there's lots of different versions there. And in fact, there's some oddly named ones there as well. So literally what I do when I go to start work on this job, so if I get some revisions from the client, I'm going to copy this file. I'm going to rename this as version 13 and then put version 12 in the work in progress folder. So before I start work on that job, then I've already versioned it once, and then you can see Google Drive syncing that file right now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let's say I spend a couple of hours working on it, I might version that 3 more times. I might then go, when I'm in Illustrator, go save as and call it version 14 and then save as version 15. So the real key to the way that I do things is be as consistent as possible. Try and use the same system for storing your files. Try and do it the same way, because then no matter what client folder you're in, you'll be able to jump through the folders and find the stuff that you're looking for. One final word on setting up your files as well. Because I usually use the same folder structure for everything, I have a little application that's made in Automator. And so what I can do is I can go to, say for example, I need to do a new job for these guys here. I could go to my little Automator application here, and the client is SMO for Smooth Operator. The job is number 13 and it is Social January, and then it is going to be we've already done Jan, we can do Social Jan and then 2019, and we go okay, and then it's going to ask me where I want to save this file. So I just go to Smooth Operator, go choose, and so now what we've got here is it's made all the folders that I normally use, which is my links folder, which contains a comps folder for low-risk comps, supplied stuff that's something that comes in externally, to client, to supplier, and work in progress. The next thing that I do is, because I do a lot of my work in Illustrator, I would then grab my Illustrator template as well. So I can go to my drive and I go to my, I don't know why it's in the business development folder, but that's where it is. And so I've got my Illustrator standard, which is what I use. So I've got my standard template. This is now 2020, so I'm just going to quickly overstrike this. So this is something that I do once a year. And so it is going to be the first month. Right, and we'll also fix this. So this is a one-time job. Right, save. Okay, so this is my blank presentation template that I use for presenting stuff to clients. And so what I'm going to do is I've got this, and those links haven't updated. Let's see whether they can get them to update. Use the InDesign shortcut. That's good. There we go. That's better. All right. So this is my blank presentation template. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically package this. The reason I'm going to package it instead of just going save as is this little header that I use on each page is actually a link. And because of the way that that all works, because this is just the job details, I just want to be able to edit this once, no matter how many pages my presentation deck has, which means that I just use this as a link. So that's kind of the neatest way that I can find to use to do that. If Illustrator had good find and replace, like InDesigns, it probably would be a different story. But anyway, okay, so all I do is I'm going to package this, and I'm going to stick it in the job folder for this thing. So it's going to go in the job that the folder that I just used before. Another little thing that I do quite a bit is that I use a thing called default folder X. And so I'm just currently just pressing Option on my keyboard and down. It's actually taking me through the recent folders that I've been using. So it knows no matter what application you're using, what folders you've been using. So that's very handy, because if you've been working in InDesign and then you go into Illustrator and you want to jump to the folder that InDesign has last been using, you can use this to tab through your recent folders. So this is a massive time saver. So it's called default folder X. So default folder X, really good piece of software from Sinclair Software. All right, so then I go in here and then I go choose, and it's just going to package that file. Don't need that. And go, okay, it's going to show the package. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move the AI file into the root folder, and I'm going to grab the header and put that into the links folder. And then I'm just going to delete that. The last thing that I do before I get started on the job is, and then I just copy that file name. So you'll notice from before, I use that file name quite a bit from beyond just like emailing a client. I also use it to name this file here. Surprise, surprise, that helps when I'm searching for files. The other thing that this is really useful for is that when I do my invoicing, I also will copy in and paste that into my invoice so that the clients can kind of track the jobs through, and it's heaps easier. So that is kind of how I handle my stuff. Hope that helps.